The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
All right, welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show. I hope you're all enjoying the summer of 2015 at 10, and I hope you're getting your suggestions in for the next summer we cover. I'm already excited at the prospects I'm seeing so far from your comments on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook. I'm liking where we're going with those dates, so keep them coming. Today, we're going to sidestep back to Tarkovsky's Tales, a retrospective on the films of Andrei Tarkovsky, which this is the fourth installment. You can go back and find the other three if you want to catch up. And with me for that journey, author of Red, White, and Who, and programming director of Chicago TARDIS. I'm pretty sure he's present here with us and not a visitor based off my memories of him, Stephen Warren Hill.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I just started classes beginning of May, so
that's right.
Going back to school.
Student Stephen. Always good. I mean, why not educate and learn more and more and more? And continued, and we continue to study Andrei Tarkovsky as we're going through this. So, awesome. Today we are talking the 1972 science fiction masterpiece. But say it. Solaris.
At precisely 1900 hours, I entered the cabin of the spacecraft and settled back for liftoff.
Ready, Kelvin?
Ready.
Good luck.
Donatas Banionis, Vladislav Dvorjetsky, Natalia Bondarchuk play the leading roles in Solaris. The scene is somewhere in the cosmos. The time, the distant future. The place, a planet yet unknown to us. Based on the novel by Stanislav Lem.
I'm not Carrie.
I don't care.
Carrie doesn't exist. She is dead. Accept it, Kelvin, or you are lost.
Let us take you with us to Solaris, planet of mystery, embodiment of man's latent conflict with the unknown. Man, face to face with his conscience and with his past. directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, who gave us the classic film Andrei Rublev. A studio Mosfilm production.
Which is directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, written by Andrei Tarkovsky and Friedrich Gorenstein, based on the novel Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. Stars Donatas Banionis, Natalia Bondarchuk, Yuri Yarbet, Anatoly Solonitsyn, Olga Barnett, Nikolai Grinko, Skarsgård, and Vladislav Dorjetsky. I think that's the best I've gone through these names.
That's not bad.
I was like, I'm getting the Soviet Russian stuff down here. So this movie is about a psychologist who is sent to a station orbiting a distant planet in order to discover what has caused the crew to go insane. This will be the last film also that Vadim Yusov is the cinematographer for, as he and Tarkovsky just fought too much on this one and parted ways. It's a shame because this is some gorgeous work. This and Rublev together, and even, I mean, the boy, the steamroller and the violin, that looked good too.
Yeah.
So he's out. This is the second adaptation in video form of it. There was a 2-part Russian TV movie for it. And there's been many audiobooks, audio dramas, theater, opera, and TV and film based off Solaris. It won the Grand Prix Special du Jury and the Fipresci Prize, and was nominated for the Palme d'Or at 1972 Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, this is, I think... Would you say, Steven, this is majority people's entry point into Tarkovsky? Do you think? Is this right?
It seems likely. Yeah, I think so.
It was my first one, mainly because they come into... So this film, there's there's 2001: A Space Odyssey, and once you get into that and stuff, if you're of a certain age or something, that someone's gonna be like, you gotta check out Solaris, or Solaris is this sort of like answer to it or something. And I like to think that now we have 2001: Space Odyssey, Solaris, and Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, which kind of like goes in between with the same kind of ideas and concepts, and like takes the vibe from both in a way, with the like science heavy stuff and then the emotional level as well. But this is the emotional, I guess, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which apparently is it Tarkovsky didn't see 2001 before he made this. He didn't see it till later.
I honestly don't know.
Because there was rumor that he saw 2001, said it was too like, it was too dry, no emotion for him, and then he made this. But then I've read that he didn't see it. He saw it after, thought that he was just making it. He thought Western science fiction movies were too sterile and wanted to do something, and he saw 2001 later, and even Kubrick said it was one of his favorite movies, and he says, well, I didn't like his. So but yeah, when did you first see Solaris? Because I know you've got it down.
Yeah, let me look that up. So it wouldn't have been my first, because as you know from the past, my first was Stalker. But I do know one of the thoughts that I had while you were mentioning the cinematographers, while I'm looking up my Solaris information, is that I read that they argued over which lenses to use. Tarkovsky wanted more close-ups, and the cinematographer wanted wider angles so that you could see the set, more of the set.
Okay.
It's impressive, but Tarkovsky wanted the emotion on the faces to show. So even little things like that. It looks like I first saw Solaris in 1993. And yes, it looks like I bought it on Laserdisc in November 1993 and watched it the same day.
Okay.
So that wasn't always the case. I buy movies a lot often and don't watch them for a long
Yeah.
time after I buy them.
I
But,
I've done the thing. I've done the thing now on my collection shelf where if I bought it and I haven't watched it, because I crack the plastic, as they say. I don't, because I want to look at what's in it. What
Yep.
opening is a joy itself as much as watching it. But I put it in the shelf, but I leave it sitting out to the edge, so I know if it's popped out, that tells me you haven't watched that yet. You got it, and you haven't watched it yet. So I pull it out. I will mention something. I'm a big fan of Solaris, and before I forget on this, like I don't know if it'll show up too well, but I do rock. Okay, it's over here, my Solaris poster that I do rock in my basement. So I do
Nice.
that. If you have the poster, that means it's true love, I guess, or something. But I do rock that interesting poster, which I found that art. I was like, okay. I was between that and the original art, and I normally go with the original art, but I really liked the look of that one that I have. But yeah, I saw this in the 2000s, so it was later for me to see it, which I probably had heard of it because of the Steven Soderbergh adaptation that came out, which in preparation for this, I read the book.
Okay.
And then, which I never had, and then I watched the Steven Soderbergh one again, which I hadn't seen in a long time. I have a German import Blu-ray of it, which I know a lot of people I've talked to, not big fans of it, but going back and reading reviews and stuff of it, it was pretty well liked when it came out from critics and stuff. And I think Roger Ebert had like the best thing to say about it. While acknowledging like he liked the feeling he had watching the Tarkovsky one, and thought that one was a much more daring picture. He did like that there was a kind of like the tightness of the story that Soderbergh told as well. But have you seen the Soderbergh one?
I have seen it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it looks really good. I really like Natasha McElhorn's performance as the wife, which they go with Rhea in that. Which in the book, the book adaptation I read, her name was Rhea, though Hari is like the proper, but in some adaptations it's Rhea, which is like some sort of reform. It's a weird thing with it, but there's I think the Soderbergh one is too, for my liking, too full of answers.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it on its own merits. Both of them not really. I think the Tarkovsky one picks up the book a lot more than Stanislaw Lem wants to admit. But the Soderbergh one, I think, takes it and makes like a entertaining movie out of it rather than a thoughtful, scientific pondering or things like that. But what have you read the book?
Again, I have, but it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember it very well.
I had a plane ride to and from New York, so I was like, and this thing was like 200 pages, so I was like, all right, I'll do this. I'll do it. And I had to special order it. It is not. Also, I'm kind of nerdy. Like the cover, if you want the latest edition printed in the U.S. of it is from the 2003 press tour of the movie. So it's got the George Clooney on the cover of it and stuff. And I wanted something a little more generic looking.
Yeah.
So I ordered it from a thrift store in Portland. and got it. Which was an old library book too. It had stuff all over it. But I read that and it's very interesting. And I can now like correlate it with the movie a bit more. And I think, to me, in terms of the adaptation, this is a case of The Shining, where I think the director figured something out the author didn't, and maybe took it in a more interesting direction that the author had there, but expressed it more, and the author's mad because of certain densities that weren't going to translate to film well.
Mm-hmm.
But his stuff's here. His stuff that he bitches, that Stanislaw Lem, which he said, to my best knowledge, the book was never or was not dedicated to erotic problems of people in outer space. As Solaris author, I shall allow myself to repeat that I only wanted to create a vision of a human encounter with something that certainly exists in a mighty manner, perhaps, but cannot be reduced to human concepts, ideas, or images. This is why the book was entitled Solaris and not Love in Outer Space. Which, maybe because I'd seen both films before, I was influenced by that when reading. But when I'm reading, it's there. Like, so I don't know what he's talking about. And I don't know if he wanted a movie where a guy's sitting looking at books and reading them, because that happens a lot in the novel. But yeah, so
I have the BFI analysis of Solaris, and I only got through about half of it. But one of the things, and I can't remember if it's the author or if he's quoting somebody, he says, whoever it is says, there are so many ideas in the novel that you could make a bunch of different movies, call them Solaris, and have all of them be different yet faithful to the novel.
Yes.
So, from what you just said, I mean, it sounds like, okay, an author is going to be picky about adaptations of his work, right?
Yeah.
But despite that, it sounds like both filmmakers got an effective movie out of the same material.
Yeah.
Whether it was the same or not.
And I'm old school. Like, I don't think a movie is an adaptation. It is not a translation. And I think I agree with the school of the Hitchcock and Kubrick, where you read the book once, you read the book the second time and take notes, and then you throw it out the window and make your movie.
Yeah.
And I don't get too, like, I understand and enjoying this book you like and going to see the movie, but like, there's also, when you just straight up do the book, there's no surprises in that, and you know what to expect. And like, it's like, yep, it was everything I expected it to be. It's like, I like when they take a little bit of chances or change something up, which I'm not a huge fan of the Twilight movies, but from my understanding, the last book, they made a drastic change with something, and it really excited people and caught them off guard. I'm like, yes, you should do that.
Yeah.
But because it's one person or a collective's. When I read this is what I thought. This is what I think, and it's not. And maybe it doesn't work for everybody. Oh, they screwed up the book, but it's like, no, like, it's an adaptation. Like, if you were to make it, you'd have thought you did it right, and a million people would think you were wrong. Like, it's don't understand, but. So early thoughts on Solaris before as we dive in.
Well, one of my overwhelming thoughts about Solaris is that, and you may disagree with me on this,
okay,
but I think that it is one of the least philosophical of Tarkovsky's movies. I feel like there's a certain amount of philosophical musing happening in this movie, but I think that there's less of it in this one than any other one, except maybe for Ivan's Childhood. I think he delves more into philosophy and philosophizing. His characters doing a lot of that in his other movies. There's some in this, but I think that this movie seems to stick more to a straight narrative rather than theorizing and just talking about ideas, So that's my kind of overwhelming, overall feeling about this movie as compared to other Tarkovsky films.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that, and I think it leaves philosophy the philosophy stuff to like the viewer instead of
Mm,
telling it on screen, because there's a lot of like I think there was a lot of like it's kind of like there's some confusion in the first time you watch it, maybe. Um, like what is this trying to tell me? What and it's not. This is why I think he's more onto what Stanislaw Lem is looking for than Stanislaw Lem wants
mm,
to let on, because there's a whole lot of unanswered things in it that we can see the characters talk about stuff, and then we have reacting to stuff or coming up with our own ideas, because the idea of this film and the idea of the book is about, communication or contact with an extraterrestrial being, or, intergalactic contact or whatever. And the thing I love about Stanislaw Lem, the thing I love about Tarkovsky here is why whenever you make a sci-fi film, it's like kind of like a more of a commentary on books and television and movies than it is like humanity, because well, there is the humanity, but I go with me here. Um, Everything we do when it comes to extraterrestrials, when it comes to paranormal like ghosts and things like that, majority of your writers, majority of your filmmakers play by human rules with that
mm,
stuff. And this is all about why do those have those rules? These shouldn't have like why do we think when we go to we go to a planet, galaxy we've never been or something, that it's still going to follow what we have here? Could be it's completely different stuff. There's stuff
mm,
we don't know about in this world, but we think because of what we have on Earth, we have it solved all throughout, and we don't. And why is it going to play by those rules? This is why I have such an affinity for stuff like Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, a lot of Dario Argento, which people will call like nightmare logic, but I I am like, why does the gate of hell follow like my rules of you know uh, uh, physics when I'm like at home? Like, why does it
uh,
follow that? Like
yeah.
why? Like I love it. It spooks me to a degree when I think about, yeah, what about these things that don't follow rules? Like in the Beyond, people get mad because they're in the hospital. They open a door and they're in the basement of this other house. I'm like, a gate of hell has opened. Hell on earth. There's zombies. It doesn't follow. And here we go. We have this being, this alien sentient that doesn't explain itself at
Hmm.
all. And that's kind of the crux of the movie. And through that, you're like, it's projecting what it's getting from them about being human, but never saying what they've found or something. And
Yeah.
you kind of have to pick it out yourself. It doesn't really spoon feed, but I mean, there's no real like philosophy or mission statement on life itself. But there is something on like companionship and things like that. But like it's really just sort of open and in the air, and what you take from it, while still having a pretty solid surface level narrative. But that's kind of the thing. And we can live through Kelvin, but that really doesn't say anything about the whole Solaris situation at large. He makes, because it's about, in the book, not in the movie, there is a thing where it's like someone asks about wanting answers, and it says it's not about answers, it's about choices. And that's kind of what this like leads into, and where Kelvin, you know, what he chooses in the movie, and how the others go insane, and not insane, but they don't embrace the same thing he does.
Yeah. Well, and the the movie doesn't give the audience answers in kind of the same way that the scientists who are still on the station don't give Kelvin any answers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
He shows up and weird things happen right off the bat, and there's people on the station very noticeably
Mm-hmm.
that shouldn't be there, and they don't give him any explanation. They just say rest, we'll talk later. And oh, by the way, if somebody shows up, don't worry about
Yeah.
it's don't you think it would make more sense to explain right off the bat a little bit more in
Mm-hmm.
depth to prepare? And I kind of feel like Kelvin is cheated out of. It's almost like he's tricked into reacting the way he does because he's not prepared for it. And all it would have taken for him to be prepared for it was for them to have either sent a report back, an honest report back, or to explain to him up front as soon as he arrives what's going on. At least somehow, get it into his head.
Well, in the sentient, the being is smart. Well, like smart because, or lucks into it because they don't offer him any sense of trust, both of them. And what does it? Who is his visitor? Who does it take the form of? Someone he trusted mightily in his life.
Yeah,
his deceased wife. Like, so he immediately finds more trust in that, even though he knows it's not her, it's the planet messing with me. But she's acting as she did enough. She looks to the part and is honest. She's upfront with me about everything. You know, he buys into the fact she doesn't know stuff. She doesn't, you know.
He does not achieve scientific detachment.
Yeah, while these guys are like, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, ignore her." And why don't we use your brain and send radiation to the you know, like these are their plans with him. And your buddy killed himself, and we just don't kind of care. You know, like it's, and that's what they bring to it. So there's a big, deep sense of trust. So he offers it to the alien, and it ultimately decides to stay on the planet rather than go home because, you know, and there's a touching thing too, like, with it, because he kind of makes his peace when he has a conversation with his father before he leaves about, you're probably not gonna be alive when I come back.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of made his bed that maybe I don't come back.
Yep.
Maybe, which, there is earthbound stuff here, which is not in the book. The book starts right away with his journey. So that's it. That's a departure here when with the film, which I think I prefer, maybe because it's so gorgeously shot. I like the Earth stuff here because I love, man, the way he films water and like the weeds and stuff in it. Like, it's like there's no other filmmaker I can think of that films stuff like it's just to its own, and just in the weeds and all that stuff and that cabin, like it's just marvelous. And just the I'm leaving, I'm gonna destroy all my stuff, and like learning about it. And so all this stuff here with that pilot, they never met in the book. And they watch all these like court hearings and stuff like that, which happen later and throughout in the book. He finds these records and things and goes through them when he's on the planet. So it's all there. It just doesn't, it starts the movie. I guess you could say the movie gets off to a slow start because of it, but it doesn't like kneecap it later on. Like the book gets, you get going in the book, and then he stops to read stuff, and you're like, oh. And it's so dense. It's Dune type sci-fi where it's just like, I don't understand these words. I don't what? Okay. And it doesn't do that, but it starts out, and I think it starts in an interesting way. It's a bit too real-timey, but it's there in the beginning. And I don't know. Do you like all this stuff where they're watching the court hearing?
I do. I think you said earlier that in many ways this was looked at as an answer to 2001. The beginning of the movie, while they're watching the interviews, and that feels a lot like some of the scenes in 2001 before they get to Jupiter, before they get to the Jupiter mission.
Right.
Not you can't directly compare and contrast them, but they have a similar kind of feel to them. The nature stuff, and in fact, you just said real time, which when I was watching it this time, I noticed something that made me go, wait, huh? And it's curious. It's not even mentioned in the BFI book, but I don't know how many people notice this. There's a shot right towards the beginning of the movie, but he's out on a walk in nature when the movie starts, and he's walking back to his house or his father's house, or
Yeah, it's his parent. Yeah, he's at his parents.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a shot on his walk back. There's a shot where the center of the shot is taken by a lot of foliage, a big tree and some shrubbery. And the shot changes to this one, and he enters the shot on the left side of the frame. And he's walking at a normal pace. He goes behind the bushes, and then he comes out the right side of the frame from behind the bushes. But not enough time has passed for him, if he had continued walking at the pace that we see him when he goes behind the tree, to come out as early as he does. Now, a lot of times when you see that in a movie, you watch closely, you can see they've taken some frames out.
Yeah.
They just, but I could tell that there were no frames taken out. So I watched it over and over a couple of times. And if you watch it, you can see a couple of spots. You can see him through the trees. He's actually running.
Oh.
So that the overall effect is, and it has to have been intentional. Like, he must have been told, as soon as you're out of sight from the camera's perspective, move very quickly. As soon as you're about to be picked up by the camera again, slow back down to your regular pace. It has to have been deliberate.
Okay.
And the only thing, it's not brought up. It's not called, nothing calls attention to it, but it's a little bit unsettling. It's a little bit disorienting. Like, he couldn't have crossed from that side to that side in the time if he was still walking at that pace.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so interesting. Now we know he's, Tarkovsky's got such attention to detail that I could see him saying, okay, I just want to maybe catch people off guard, maybe throw something at them that feels off kilter. But otherwise, it has no importance or relevance to the story. So look out for that shot again, and see if you see what I'm seeing in that.
Because I tell you, I will be watching this movie again. I watch it probably once a year.
Yeah.
So.
And then for the rest of the Earth stuff, I think that the first time I saw this movie, I started dozing off during the car journey.
Yeah, there's the car. Yeah.
It's hypnotic. It's very long. There's no dialogue.
It's all like blue tinted.
Yeah. And I mean, it must have been shot in Japan, I think, maybe, because it's all all Japanese signs and stuff on the roadway.
I read that Tarkovsky wanted to shoot at the World's Fair for some of this journey to take off, but they kind of missed the boat on getting there and filming stuff. So we've got this Tokyo traffic thing going on, which is weird. It's kind of it's just some of this movie where they have the blue tint and stuff. It's like really weird, like, because for as beautiful as cinematography as you got here, you go to that and it's like, like, the only reason it's interesting is because it's blue tinted, with it. But it is 45 minutes before we get to the space station, and this is in two parts. And part one isn't even. Part one includes early stuff on the space station too, but it's a lot of exposition within those videos. I do think there's some good stuff between him and the pilot, arguing and talking about stuff, but like just watching this case and then reactions on the TV, it's just I get Tarkovsky liking to slowly set moods and stuff like that, but that one, like you said, you were dozing during the traffic scene, but during that scene it's kind of like, okay, I'm just watching people watching TV for a bit. There is interesting stuff within it, but like it is it's almost too directly tied to the book in the way they're explaining stuff. So it's like it's pretty dense. But I think it's a more interesting way to tell it here than in the book. And it
sounds like he was fixing a pacing problem.
Yeah.
By doing it this
way. The information needs to be there, but I'm going to throw it at the beginning. I'm going to front load it. But But I could watch them walk around and ponder stuff at the cabin all day, like out in the grass and stuff, because I'm like, this is just a really interesting location and filmed great, wonderfully. Like it really resonates strong, and it needs to be effective like that because it needs to hit us in the end too, so that it works quite well like that. But yeah, it is a big set. But once we get to the space station, this thing kicks into gear. Like it's this is I've noted that this is maybe probably my one of my favorite science fiction setups, like tropes, concepts, like a ship or a space station in disarray, empty, no one there, and what happened here? Like, it's your setup for Alien or Doctor Who, Ark in Space, that type of thing, like, or Event Horizon, like the spaceship space station as haunted house, I guess, kind of concept. And this thing is maybe the best at it. Like,
oh yeah,
it's a cool looking spaceship. It's not overly complex, but does look futuristic because it's a big circle. And it's like, from what I gather, it's not like orbiting the planet, but like hovering slightly above the surface of the planet. And that's the way it is in the book too, which is a neat concept in itself, rather than high above. But I just like the wires hanging out from this, the tin like color, like
bags of stuff in the corridors.
Yes. Like that. There's the where Dr. Solaris is or whatever, that's got that angled thing coming out of the ground. Is it Dr. Solaris? Is that his name? I might have been mixing it with another sci-fi name.
Sartorius.
Sartorius, yes. Sartorius.
Andrei Rublev Sartorius.
Yes. Yes, because he has returned. He makes his grand return. He's now acted in a film before. He's here. But yeah, the way the doors are, I just really love this space station and how it works in here. So,
and it looks like the parts of those corridors they've molded those modular pieces that cover the entire, and then some of them are actually shown as being pulled out, so you can see that they're equipment that must push into a backplane or something like that. All in theory, because obviously the rest of them are probably just painted plastic, but having a couple of them sticking out and being actual physical objects, even though they're never touched or anything, it gives it's spending your money wisely.
Right. Yeah. And this it's like, who did this? Did the guys go insane and do this? Did the visitors do this to the station? Yeah. Like, what happened? And, we don't get complete answers for that, but I just love how it is. And it's like the last three guys on this station, they don't agree. They just kind of hang to their corridors. There's no music. There's it's just really, and I've said this for a long time. This isn't a horror movie, but this is one of the spookiest movies I've ever seen in my life. Like, it really hits that way.
And you can certainly call the beings that are appearing on the station ghosts, because that's really what they are. They're ghosts.
Yeah. And once the wife Hari shows up, it's like, I'm scared of her. Like, I don't think you're on edge. You don't know what she's gonna do. Like, you just immediately think nefarious. But we never know the motivations. We never know the intentions of these beings. We don't know why they're there. We don't know what it's doing. We assume they pull it from the subconscious, the brain, the memories, which, with the behavior of them, of her, it's like the way he saw her or remembers her. So, and nothing more. The thing that's creepy to me also is like, and they explain it in the book, and is present in the movie, is like, she has the back of her tunic is like laced up, but when he goes to do it, like, there's no separation to have been laced up because it doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that's the same in like the book and stuff they talk about. Yeah,
like, that's a cool concept.
It's very cool. And then when they do a blood test in the book and stuff, and they find out like she's way perfect beyond perfect in terms of copying that, and there's like something even more fine than an atom putting her together. Like it's ridiculous. And these beings regenerate, and you can't like kill. They can heal upon all illnesses. They can take any kind of beatings or anything like that, or poisonings, and it's just
Yeah, and one of Kelvin's first reactions to the reappearance of his dead wife is to, stick her in a rocket and launch her out into space.
Which it's funny because in the book, keep commenting. I'm a newbie on the book. I'm really excited, I guess. But in the book, it's funny because when he goes and first has a conversation with Dr. Snout about it, he's like, "Man, it took me and Sartorius like 8 to 10 kills before we thought about ejecting." Like you went for it right away.
Yeah. And he simply asks, will she be back? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she will come back. And then she has no memory of, like, she just starts fresh again. And it's like, is this messing with him? What's it doing? Is it, and it's kind of, throughout this, while we're on the visitors part of it, like, she is whatever he needs her to be in the end. Like, I think that's what he figures it as. And he embraces that and trusts and stays with after being kind of creeped out or like non-trusting. Then it becomes the one thing he does trust, and just decides to give all in and be like, well, she's here. I'm going to enjoy this while it's here. And then in the book, him and Sartorius have a really interesting conversation of like, he's like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take her with me. He's like, you think she's going to like get all the way there? No, like once you leave, like, she's not going to make it. But there's a real thing with Harry, that there's a real rage issue or freak out issue once he leaves a certain proximity. Like she rips through a metal door and like goes nuts or feels like really uncomfortable. It's like we never really explore if like she could harm another person with that. We never find that out.
There's one thought that I've had about whether there's any malevolence or ill intent behind the sentient ocean sending these ghosts, because they talk about how there was really no reactivity with the ocean until they started bombarding it with X-rays.
Yes.
And then it started sending these things from their thoughts, right? And you have to wonder, were they inadvertently injuring the ocean by bombarding it with X-rays? And is it fighting? Is it, is this a defense mechanism that it's sending these things rather than an attempt to communicate?
Right. Yeah. We have no idea. Is it defense mechanism? Did they give it an extra power? Did it like what? You just don't know. And that's the fascination and the beauty of this thing, is because is it messing with them? Is it, like, is there another step to this later on? Like, we just never know. We catch it at this point. There is the story that the pilot has when some people go missing and he crash lands for a bit and he sees a giant child, which ends up being like one of the kids of one of the missing people, but just a large size of that. And that's why but he gets deemed as laughed off, or he saw like a mirage, or was delusional. And that's why everybody on the station's afraid to report back anything that's happened in the time.
Yeah. And they all eventually give in. Now, one thing that makes that interesting is the Snout and Sartorius are both scientists. They've been up there for a while, experienced what's going on. They've given up, more or less, or they've achieved a sort of equilibrium. Maybe it'd be fairer to say they've learned to coexist and continue to do whatever weird experiments they're doing. But Kelvin is not a scientist; he's a psychologist, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so I mentioned earlier he doesn't really give any. He doesn't maintain any scientific detachment to things when Hari shows up, right? It's like
he's the skeptic. He's sent as the skeptic, but then he becomes a believer while the other two are very skeptical. Like it's...
yeah, and he basically gives in and gives over to the whole thing by the end of the movie, which it's interesting, but it were the authorities right to send a psychologist up there, even though it's like what? Why wouldn't they, knowing that something is happening that shouldn't be happening on the station? Why wouldn't they send a new crew, rather than a single psychologist to try to get them out?
Right.
It's a little bit skewed thinking. Maybe that's a Western thinking process versus I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I will say, like, so in terms of all the visitors and stuff, there's questions you can ask that probably aren't filmmaker intent, maybe not even the writers and authors intent, that come up, that like, how do we know Kelvin's not a visitor? How do we know Snout's not a visitor? How do we know Sartorius? Sartorius, I don't think is a visitor at all. Like if you want to go in that mode of like what's real and what's not. If this is this, then why is this? The Soderbergh film goes as far as the Snout character, which is a different name of the book, played by Jeremy Davies. They discover is one of the visitors and had actually killed the original one because he was being violently attacked by the real person and decided to take his place. But here we have no question. In the book, they question immediately, like, this Snout's like, I don't know if you might be a visitor, you might be mine, or something like that. There's one visitor that is in the book that's not here, and it's like a African tribeswoman that appears that could be Jabarians, or it could be Snouts, because it's never clear who Snouts is. They never share that. That's the one person. We know that Sartorius is probably dealing with like a child, but yeah. So there's a way you could do this where you're like, well, are they all like, who's the visitor? Like, do we we lose track of Kelvin from Earth to you don't know. So
yeah, I feel like there is a subtle hint of when he first shows up and encounters Snout. I feel like there is a little bit of Snout's not really sure if he's just seeing the new guest, or if he's seeing the person he's really supposed to be seeing.
Right. And it's not sure if visitors can see visitors. Like it's we just don't know how this goes. Because if you're going to play the game of this isn't human, it's not going to act human, it's not going to act earthly, it's not even, it's not even going to act Milky Way galaxy like, you can go to a whole lot of places. Like maybe we're watching the Solaris like start a community of its own little by little, like replacing all the missing people and pieces of the station. You don't know. Like it's a whole lot of craziness that you could go if you just keep opening your mind to a lot of this stuff. But within the confines of this film, like I believe, Kelvin's human. We're going through his journey of this, reconciling with, the lost loved one, which is like, even when you're reading the book, I don't know what Lem wants to think. That's the most fascinating aspect of the book. This guy comes to this place, and his dead wife is now appearing in full force, full form, not fully there memory. Like that's the most fascinating thing about it, and that's why the filmmakers choose to pull that the most.
Yeah.
And
well, he's telling a story of humanity, and just throwing away. I mean, he's making a science fiction film and throwing away. There's very few, if any, special effects shots.
It's the set. That's it.
The journey to Solaris isn't even really shown other than just a one shot of a light coming closer to you, and then he's there.
Yeah.
He's on the station. As much as Kubrick spent on docking scenes in 2001, Tarkovsky he wants to get to the human story. That's what's important.
Yeah, it's very cool. They have, I mean, we have the rooms, we have the hallway, we have the I guess landing area or whatever they have, and then we have the parlor, which the parlor is host of the birthday scene, which has one of the most magnificent scenes in a film, which is when the zero gravity moment happens.
Yeah,
in there, that's such a beautiful moment. One of my favorite pieces of the film. I don't know. It's just a nice, hauntingly lovely moment in the movie. And I will say, because that moment definitely is enhanced with the score, which the score of this movie is this organ thing, which reminds me of Procol Harum's Whiter Shade of Pale. I can't, and that makes it spooky, is that score. Because whereas 2001's big and bombastic with, stuff, this one's like just silent little organ, like a funeral or something, adds to the spookiness of this movie.
And you can nitpick a little bit on that scene with the weightlessness, that none of the books on the shelves nothing else starts floating. Tables,
yes,
the dishes on the table stay where they are. But that's really nitpicking. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because then it would have been more of a gimmick anyway. If you made all that stuff float, it would have felt like a gimmick scene. Whereas when it's just the two of them holding each other and then floating, that's again focusing on the humanity of it, not this is a big special effects shot.
Right, absolutely. And I think what also helps to add to the 70s film stock, just that adds so much to it. Like I don't think this movie, well, in certain hands it could look good too, but I think the 70s film stock really helps to add to the belief and the hauntingness of this movie, going with the lighting as well.
Even the color schemes, very early 70s, especially the clothes that Hari is wearing, the browns, the oranges and browns, and the Afghan that she's got wrapped around. Yep. It's very, very early 70s.
Yeah, for sure. And the costuming is like futuristic, but not super over the top futuristic. That works. That I like, because Kelvin's like arrival suit with the like leather jacket and that like mesh kind of shirt, and the pants are like, it looks like a disco Han Solo, but like it works very much. But they, in that spacesuit doesn't go overboard. Like it keeps it real, keeps it believable, and that's one of the strengths of the movie for sure.
This movie does make me wonder what real effect would happen if a person were to drink liquid oxygen.
Oh yeah, that is nightmare fuel right there. With the look of her with that, and you're just like, oh my gosh, and just like she's just a scary character. Like it's never, the visuals probably help, but in the book there is some, is this sinister, is this not, but like in this it's just like there's just so much, I don't know, she's very scary to me in this. Like it's just a good job. And like she wasn't the first choice. They had Irma Bosch or Irma Rosh, his wife at the time, was up, who he wanted, and then he was going to have BB Anderson play, but then Natalia Bondarchuk got it. And it's funny because she is also the person who gave him the book Solaris when they were in film school to read.
Okay.
So, and she hasn't done really much. This is her main movie she did.
And she was Sergei Bondarchuk's daughter, wasn't she? Or isn't she? Or
that's a good question.
thought I had seen that somewhere, or maybe I'm just assuming because of the last name.
Yeah, she is Sergei Bondarchuk's daughter.
Okay, and married to Nikolai Barlaev.
Yeah, and her mom is Ina Makarova, which is a Russian actress. So she's a nepo baby. She's a nepo baby. Uh, but yeah, no, she's quite good.
Yeah, she does a really good job.
And I like the thing that doesn't. I don't know if it comes across with people, but like she literally, and it's more so noted in the book. In the book, it's not his ex-wife; it's an old girlfriend, is what it is. But she's the same age as when she died. So like, it didn't strike me till after I read the book, and then I watched the movie. I mean, yeah, he's much older, like, and then she's young looking, but that's how it's supposed to be because she never grew to a certain age, so it works that way. And they kind of hammer that home because Tarkovsky's not one to spoon feed you, so he's like, when he's burning the pictures before he leaves, he's got the one of her right there for it. But it works so well.
I do love that scene later in the movie where there's like 6 different Haris in the room.
Oh yeah,
that is another creepy, right?
And when it gets to the final one, she's just right there, staring close up. It was like, yeah, so cool. Such a wonderful film with that, and yeah, I definitely like that. And we're talking about cinematography with it. You did mention, this is his most claustrophobic feeling film because normally he's big and lots of stuff here, and there's tons of detail in here, but this definitely keeps it intimate inside and it's kind of the shape of the station too, fits the aspect ratio well and stuff. So it's not like it's like a tiny film, like this is still better looking and stuff than a lot of blockbusters today that have a lot of money behind them because film school learning cinematography like pays dividends, and cheating with it, not cheating, but digital makes these better. Man, go make your films, folks. Just go make your films. But I just say there's even I always talk about how even back in the day, the trashiest film had to have someone who went to school and knew how to run the camera and do film and developing and stuff. So with proper lighting and such. So it's just different times we live in. But
another common we talked earlier about shooting things through the water, that are underwater.
Oh yeah,
from above, and then other common Tarkovsky type things of trees again, and raining, a lot of rain in the earth scenes this time, but also significantly rain at the end of the movie on the island that the ocean has created with his childhood home, and raining inside the house.
That's one of my favorite things is the raining inside the house. That's just like so unnatural and just offsetting. It's like adds to the spookiness of the film, and but it's also beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
But then watching his drone version, because I think the coolest thing is we don't know Harry aside from the visitor on the space station.
Yes.
But we met the dad at the beginning of the film, and you can definitely tell it's not him. And it's haunting in a different way. It's like, so he fell and just accepted what is probably not, like, you understand how he would have felt when he saw Harry for the first time. So like, you see the dad just doing the motion of stacking books, and then the rain not bothering him, and just it's like, okay, this is scary. it's almost Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like, where he's like, like it's very close to that feeling with it. But I do like, the ending, and then when you notice that the pond is, the water's not moving, it's frozen, but I think it's just still. Like that's the thing, and it's like, because it doesn't know that, or because in the book they describe the ocean planet as it's a gelatin, it's not water that's around. But this island, which the island is not in the book either. But his decision to just, I guess, stay and embrace this life. That how long will he live?
Right.
Will, like, you know, it's really, yeah, it's fascinating because Harry's not coming back. She decided put an end to me, and every time they have this device that can get rid of them, and they never come back
Yeah.
if they want to use it. And she
Yeah.
decides to self-sacrifice, which is what she did on Earth, but in a different way.
Yeah.
She has an assisted suicide, and he goes back to be with his father, who we know is no longer with us because he's was going to probably be dead by the time he went back.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe even the journey there, but it's, yeah, it's a interesting. Like, do you think it's a happy ending? Like, what do you take from this ending? Because it's like, what is this?
It's a
Like,
good question. This is the kind of movie that, um, if you're not in tune with a movie that's not going to provide you easy answers, you're not going to like this movie, right?
right, right.
So a lot of people would come off of this movie going, okay, what was that about? What did I just watch? Why did I just watch that? But that, I mean, you have to watch it, accept what's being shown to you, enjoy it or not, and then think about it. That's all you need to do is start thinking about what you've seen and what does it mean to you, and
Right, exactly.
can you put yourself in. Now, I do find it hard to identify with any of the characters in this movie personally, but most of the time you're supposed to identify closely with the main protagonist, but I don't identify with Kelvin too strongly at all. But you can still put yourself in his place and think, what would I do in this situation? Am I going to spend another however long time it takes to get from Solaris to Earth to go back when everybody's going to be gone when I get back? Or should I stay here with something that I know isn't real, but is emotionally fulfilling and doesn't bother me that it's not real? Is that what's the deal breaker here? And it's not a deal breaker for Kelvin,
right?
But for who would it? Would it be a deal breaker for you or me? And what would be the deal breaker? That's the real question to think about.
Yeah, it's like, it's a movie that wants to be like on the surface, like, what would you do with a second chance at someone who left you in life? But it's not. At the same time, it's like, because it's not really that second chance. It's your, like, having to bring it to the forefront, deal with it again, or like, it's not. It's the illusion of a second chance, and then there's like, is something close enough, not the actual thing virtually, but close enough, good enough? Can it make you emotionally satisfied? Can you be like with it even though it's not like, if it's kind of like that movie Her, where like Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with an AI, or even like, compare like Past Lives, my favorite film of 2 years ago, where like these two people who had known each other in elementary school as adults connected on like social media and had a relationship with one each other just from speaking on text and maybe a Zoom chat here and there, but it was a deep emotional connection without connection because they never could really get together. Sort of like that, like, what is real to you or doesn't work? It's loaded, like, and that's what this movie's about. If you don't think it's about anything, or because it didn't like say, here's the answer, that, I mean, that's not, you're not watching the movie right. You're not in the right, it's not going to give you that. It's supposed to stay with you. It's supposed to, like, and that's why I love this. And every time you return to it, there is something new. There is something, a new secret, a new read, a new, everywhere. It's one of those movies that at every stage in life you're at, it's going to give you something new. Like you need to watch. Like I equate like Vertigo to this. Like I always get something new out of Blade Runner. I get something new out of Blade Runner. The older I get, like these movies that you're not going to watch like 80 million times in a row. You gotta like just let it, because it's gonna stay with you. You don't need to keep watch it. Return to it like annually or something like that, or every couple years, and just like the new secrets to unlock, something you maybe not had before. Maybe your life experiences have made this movie resonate with you in a different way, while enjoying the lovely set design and stuff like that at the same time, and the wonderful camera work in this movie. But it's very, very fascinating. So it also, one thing that might clue into us here, that's it's not present in the book but in the screenplay, there are Don Quixote references throughout. Which, if you're not familiar with Don Quixote, it's about a guy who's living in kind of his own fantasy and has a person with him, a companion that's well aware it's all he's kind of crazy, but feeds into it and wants him to see through. What that's saying about this, you can kind of put where he's coming from. Two and two together. So
yeah.
There is that. Let's see. Oh, we do have another Rublev connection, because they have like paintings up in the space station from various masters. Which is what Rublev was from, not from Andrei Rublev, but from other ones of that. Well, maybe they're not from his era. Who knows? Hundreds of years go by. They have different paintings, but yeah, some of those are up with it. I also read that Akira Kurosawa visited this set. This space station set. Very impressed by it. So that's them in the same place on the set of Solaris. What? Talk about, what would you go back in time to see? I don't know. The day Kurosawa visited the set of Solaris, wouldn't understand a lick of what either of them were saying to each other. Probably wouldn't have a translator myself, but that'd be cool. This is definitely, in the history of films, one of the sets I would love to walk on. Destroy the magic for me, but just to see, or like feel like you're part of it. This is definitely one of them. Tarkovsky viewed this movie as a failure because it did not transcend the genre as he believed his later film Stalker did. So I disagree with him. I think it is not a failure. It's screened in limited runs in the USSR for 15 years with no breaks. And when it was released in the United States in 1976, it was missing 30 minutes. It was a shorter cut of the movie, which I've never seen. I don't know if that's ever been made available.
Yeah, I don't know. So, probably not. So as far as I remember, the first VHS release was the full version.
Right.
Interesting.
I'd imagine like stuff they cut's probably in the first 45 minutes. I bet.
I would bet it is. Yeah.
And then I think when Criterion first put it on DVD, the color timing wasn't correct. The blue tint stuff was not blue tinted. I think that's one of the things for the Blu-ray. Which, speaking of, we went by the 50th anniversary of this movie, and there was no 4K release for it. I was pretty upset. Where is it at?
Yeah. Yeah, the Blu-ray came out quite a long time ago now.
Yeah. I would love the 4K of this. Don't know why. This movie and Cabaret came out, had 50 years, and no 4Ks for them. I was it's like, come on, Criterion. This one's a moneymaker. Yeah, no Criterion. Kino, their titles for Tarkovsky have 4Ks, but no Criterion yet. Just kind of boo. Steven, did you watch the Netflix show Archive 81 at all?
No.
So that show was pretty good, and it was very influenced by this movie. So if they like Solaris, I want to say, so it's the setup of the show is this guy is asked to watch this abandoned like mansion house that used to be a scientific research place. I can't remember. It's been years. It only went one season, got canceled. But the guy says okay. He goes to do it, and it's like, yeah, don't do this. Don't classic setup. But he he watches Solaris on VHS in there, but then like he starts seeing this woman in the house and stuff, and it's very the sets of it look almost old space stationy for this house, and the interiors of the house, because they picked some kind of architectural artsy fartsy house to put this in, but it's very spooky, like the him seeing this woman in the middle of the night, which she's not related to him or anything. It's ties to a mystery in the past, but it builds off. I mean, they even watch Solaris to name and hit the nail on the head of what they're doing. But I thought that was kind of neat. A different way of using Solaris rather than just remaking another Solaris.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's Archive 81. Pretty interesting show. I thought it was pretty all right. So, gotcha. Do you have any more thoughts on Solaris or?
Nah, I don't think so. We didn't talk too much about the cast. We're Tarkovsky tended to use a lot of the same people more than once at least. So you start to get familiar with, and you start to develop your favorites and stuff. And, I don't have any particular observations beyond that, but
right.
This is a good cast here.
Oh yeah, very good. They're very they complement each other because they're all not alike in a way. Snout's very wiry and crazy, and Kelvin's kind of beside himself a lot of this.
Yeah.
The way they perform, and then she's of course just her performance is so interesting to me. Like it might be it's probably my favorite one of them because there's like a hollowness to it, but not as she picks up things like she like it's really it's a bit like kind of like android like ish, and that's not easy to do what she's doing.
Yeah.
And it really carries this in the intrigue for me throughout this movie.
It's really like when she's sleeping and then her eyes pop open and you see that she's not sleeping, and later on she says, I haven't learned how to sleep yet.
Yeah.
And you realize that, okay, first of all, that's weird. That makes sense. And then, she was playing that sense of, I don't know how to sleep. I haven't figured that out yet. She was playing that so well.
Yeah.
That
she's just copying what you do, because in your memory, you have memories of like sleeping or telling or other people knowing how to sleep. That's a thing. Like you then go into your brain and like, oh, what do we think about when we like how if they pulled something from my brain, like what would they be made up of or something like that? Like she obviously, he probably knows nothing of like her childhood or what she would look like or know. And so maybe like she doesn't probably even remember. She probably only has memories of her and him stuff and probably doesn't remember like her parents. She doesn't remember his parents.
Yeah.
Because when they show the video, she's like, that woman doesn't like me. I don't think she did. Like you never met her. Like that was, so it's just, it's very interesting. And going in these wild, like concepts of, like I said, I reiterate, I love this concept of why do we have to play Earth rules with things?
Yeah.
Why does aliens have to look humanoid? Why does, like it's very, it's wild to me that a lot more people aren't, it's a bold choice to go that way because a lot of audiences will think you're just full of shit or you just don't, you screwed up or something like that. But when you go, you dive in those wild concepts and like you allow your brain to be open to them, you realize how spooky and weird and crazy it could be. Like I always remember I first the Frank Darabont's Stephen King adaptation, or the adaptation of Stephen King's The Mist, toward the end, when like obviously this whatever it is taken over and they're driving and there's just those like Lovecraftian like legs and stuff going around. Like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this dimension? Like, because if you do interdimensional stuff, like, who knows what the hell the dimensions rules of physics and science are? Like, we can't even figure out our like own. Like, that's just, you sit and think about it in your brain, you're going, not like, oh my god, that's haunting. That's just scary. But like, yeah. But yeah, I love these things that just don't, like, I'm not playing by your human rules, and it takes the human form, but in like one of the most interesting concepts and ways we've ever seen on film. So yeah, Solaris, 10 out of 10, no notes, I guess. From me. So yeah. But yeah, that'll do it for this installment of Tarkovsky's Tales. The series will return in July for a discussion of 1975's The Mirror. We're taking June off from this, so I guess I'm just rather busy. So we'll take a month off. We'll get back to it. And I think this, it's nice. We went up to Solaris, and then we'll take a break, and we'll be back with Mirror and Stalker and all the good stuff when we return. But till then, Steven, where can people keep up with you?
I'm on Facebook, Stephen W. Hill, and Instagram. And you can find me on Gallifrey Base, the Doctor Who forum, discussion forum. I'm the chief administrator there.
Got a new logo up there, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's one of my daily stops.
Excellent.
So, all right. And I'm on the socials at Brandon4KUHD. I'll be at Days of the Dead, June 13th through 15th. Check their website for times and stuff for my live show. Or come by and say hi to me. They said I might have a booth, so if I don't, I'm lying right now. PopCon will be June 27th through 29th. I'm there. The Creator Summit has been postponed till next year. So I know I was pushing that, but that's the status on it. So yeah, I'll be at the live podcast stage doing shows Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as well as a host of all other awesome podcasts. And then the podcast awards I will be hosting as well. Friday, the summer of 2015 at 10 resumes with a music video companion series. It's Kat Fitzpatrick and I, her of the Fake Ass Book Club, and I discuss Flo Rida's GDFR. But till next time, as always, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.